Well, hello everybody. Here we are with another Dave and Dan Discuss. And we were kind of talking, what are we going to discuss next? Well, something just fell in our lap. Because in January, the board voted against $9 million of borrowing for roads. And in February, the board voted against $4.5 million borrowing for roads. We find out in March, coming up this Tuesday, they're talking about another $10 million of borrowing for the roads. But don't worry, it'll just be put on your tax levy and you'll never know it and it's all good, right? Well, it doesn't have to be. And what we're going to do tonight is, this is Dave. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing good.
You're the numbers man tonight for us. You're going to provide us with a lot of numbers, I hear.
Got lots of numbers to talk about.
We're going to talk about this borrowing. We're going to talk about why it is ridiculous. But there's a solution that requires no borrowing, which nobody wants to look at. So that's what you're going to go through
Well, we have
today.
a couple of solutions.
Couple
I mean,
solutions even,
We could
wow.
do borrowing and
So get your
accomplish
paper
it.
out and take some notes,
Yep.
or hit the rewind button. We're going to be providing a lot of stuff for you tonight.
Yeah. So let's just talk a little bit though, because in January, the board voted against the borrowing, right?
That's right.
And then we did it again in February, and then there was some comments, on your Free and Dodge site, and I actually took the time to detail the reasons why.
Yes, I remember you got a nice post there of
Okay.
all the numbers, yeah.
So, I mean, I went into detail, explained why we voted no, or at least why I voted no. So, but anyway, we were going to borrow $4.5 million back in February. And, I poured into the budget a little bit. I poured into the documents, and I'm going to share some numbers with you here tonight. So the approved budget for highways included for 2022 was $12,504,610. I'm not going to go down to details anymore.
But that's what they had figured they wanted to have to fix roads.
12.5 million.
Okay.
Now, of that 12.5 million, 9 million was borrowed funds.
And that's the borrowing we've been hitting back and forth on
The
the
stuff
last
that
few
we
months.
discussed in
Okay.
January, it was turned down.
Yep.
But ultimately, what that means is we had $3.5 million in the budget for roads. Okay,
Left over because that was the balance after
That's
the
the
9 million
balance.
was rejected.
that's what we had anticipated from the budget for roads.
Okay.
So I start with that, and then I add to it 3.35 million that was discovered. I'm going to loop back to that. Discovered.
Money that wasn't there for the budget process, but all of a sudden
It became available.
became available.
Yep.
Okay.
And then, we sold 2 loaders. We got $328,800 for those.
Yep.
And as part of the borrowing for the $4.5 million, the highway department, or the highway committee, had shared that they had $455,000 available for maintenance that they could have applied to the $4.5 million in borrowing.
So they were looking to get to the total they needed to do what they wanted to do for
February.
for February.
For the 3 projects, right?
Right.
The 16 miles of roads,
Yep.
County M, J, and Q.
Yep.
All right. So I have to let you know, I mean, we were opposed to the borrowing because I constantly feel so the money's in the budget and we should look for the budget to find the money before we go and ask the taxpayers for more. So back on February 25th, Dave Ellinger sent out a memo.
Now who's Dave Ellinger?
Dave Ellinger is our finance director, but he's since retired
Is he?
here.
Yeah.
First part of March. He didn't retire. I mean, he got a new job down in Stoughton.
Yeah.
So we're going to look for a new finance director, but
But he was the man who watched the books.
he calculates all the numbers. I just recalculate them
Okay.
sometimes.
Okay.
But anyway, Dave Ellinger requested a meeting with me, and I got together with him and Dave Froling, and they wanted to go over this memo that was sent to me because they discovered money that wasn't spent and that would fall to the Highway General Fund. So I'm just going to quote you from this memo. It says, I thought I would share with you that the Capital Projects Fund will have a fund balance of approximately $3.35 million at the end of the year 2021. This amount will automatically remain in the capital projects fund for future road bridge construction projects. So,
So
that's
they didn't know it was there, but they found it, and they said it's gonna go into the.
into a
into
fund
a
balance
Fund balance
available
that can be used for roads.
for roads. There you go. So, I looked at that and I said, well, that's good news, because,
Like a Christmas present, huh?
well, it's good news for us.
Yeah.
Let me throw some numbers at you. So, remember I said, we had 12.5 million budgeted, but of that 12.5, 9 million was borrowed.
Supposed to be borrowed, which left,
3.5
3.5
million,
million.
because we weren't borrowing the 9 million.
right?
So I'm going to add to that this 3.35 million that Dave Ellinger says is going to be available for roads. It's going to be there at the end of the year. We sold 2 loaders
Okay.
unexpectedly. Wasn't part of the budget.
No, but it came up, and it was done, yeah.
$328,800 was the proceeds. And then, of course, the $455,000 that was available
That they took from maintenance and said we can apply it to the roads.
to 4.5 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
450,000.
455.
Yeah.
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 So I added all that up and I said, holy crap, we got $7.64 million to spend on roads.
From within the budget, really now, right?
It's right there in the budget,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Without a lot of manipulation, 7.6 million. So then I looked at the Highway M project, which we budgeted at 4.172, and I said, well, we could do all of that. I looked at J, which was 2.3 million, and Q, which was 1.8 million.
And this was what they were proposing in February.
These are the 16 miles of roads
In February for the 4.5 million.
for the
they wanted to
4.5
borrow.
million.
Yep.
So I'm saying, well, if we need 4.5, how are we going to get to this 4.5?
Yep.
But the 4.5, actually, it's there.
It actually came from within the budget, really, didn't it?
It could.
It
Now,
could, yeah.
if you add all those numbers up, yeah, we're $731,000 short.
Oh.
All right. So I'm like, well, okay, we could cut a project, we could cut a mile off of a line or something, or we could attempt to find 731. So I thought to myself, well, where could that come from? So I thought, you know what? I mean, we had proposed a roofing project at the jail with the source of the funds being sales tax, and that was going to be 1.4 million. And I thought, hey, let's take half of that since we're not going to be able to do that. By the way, the bids for that project came in at $3 to $3.5 million.
Yeah, I heard it wasn't even close. That's been,
So, I mean, they shelved that because there's no way we can get that done.
yeah.
So, my proposal would be to take half of that money, which is not going to be spent, and apply it to the highways. Okay? We have a sales tax policy. We can apply monies from sales tax.
So that money came out of
Good
the
highway.
sales tax.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
The money for the roofing
For the
project would have been
roofing,
sales tax.
Okay.
So we could take, 700,000 from there
Mm-hmm.
and make up the difference of what we need, and we could accomplish all of the roads that we mentioned in the $4.5 million borrowing without borrowing money from the taxpayers, without borrowing
Extra money from the
from the
tax.
taxpayers.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I was at. Now, if you're listening, we're only going to take half of the sales tax dollars. But
Yes,
truly,
right.
that's one solution to get $4.5 million that would have satisfied the $4.5 million of borrowing. But there's another weird thing, right? I mean, we could conceivably borrow $4.5 million and do the whole $9 million. And you'd have to say, well, where's the money going to come from
Uh-huh.
to pay off the loan? Well, we could start with $455,000 from,
So it seemed like that 455 was in there, and they were gonna just sort of move it where they had to use it, and if that's always gonna be in there,
well,
maybe aim at this kind of thing, huh?
aim at that.
Yeah.
Let's look for money in the highway budget to make the payments. We were able to find it from January to February. We found $455,000. Okay, the payments on the $4.5 million of borrowings.
For 10 years,
Well,
is,
it's about $500,000 a year.
it's close.
The principal is $450 a year,
Yeah, yeah.
and the interest is about $50,000 a year. So the money is actually it's available.
So you're saying if they wanted to have to borrow that money, they actually, from within their budget, could make the payment within the department,
Yeah, without a doubt.
without a doubt? Wow.
So, just two possible solutions. I mean, we could do the 4.5. We described how we could do the
Yeah.
4.5, which means we don't need to do that borrowing. But if we had to do the whole 9 million, or if we wanted to do the whole 9 million, we just have an alternative here, right? And if we can't find the money in the highway budget, maybe we got to go tap the sales tax again. I mean, Dan, we started with the $1 million. The board made a commitment to highways back in 2018
You're talking from the sales tax now?
from the sales tax.
Okay.
First year we put $1 million in. Second year, 2 million. Third year we jumped all the way to 3 million.
And you're saying that was for roads right off the bat? Always.
Strictly for roads.
So
Trying to improve the roads.
So the board is determined to fix the roads of the county?
We made an effort,
Yeah.
okay? Millions of dollars in effort, okay? But perhaps what we need to do is take that, maybe if we have to borrow the money, maybe we take the money that we're actually putting in the roads and borrow money and start making payments on it.
So using the sales tax for that?
Use the sales tax for that. Now, I said, it's $1 million, 2 million, 3 million, and the next year was 2.3, and this year, it's a small number, it's only $290,000. But by what I've just said here, maybe we take the stuff that we're not gonna
Yeah.
put in the rough, put that into these projects. Or borrow 4.5 million, take the 4.5, show a good faith effort that you're gonna spend the money from the highway, and borrow the other half.
So there are options.
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 Options that the first option should not be knock on your neighbor's door and ask for $12 or $25
They
or whatever
want
the
to
number
get
is.
in your pocketbook, no doubt. The only options I've seen is you either can borrow 9 million, or you can borrow 4.5 million, or you can borrow 10 million, all put on the tax levy.
Yeah.
And that's not an option I'm happy with, and I see you're not happy with it either. And we have other options here that aren't even considered.
So,
So what do? You have a board that says no twice, and you still have the highway department coming for more money.
yeah, I'm not sure who the impetus is for the third time.
Okay.
I'm going to say this, Dan. I've been on boards in the past, okay? And, being on a school board in the past, I can tell you, you can make an argument and you can attempt to get your way, right? But once a decision is made, good politics or good board governance says you go along with the majority decision.
You should.
Or you go along with,
With
the decision.
The decision,
right?
you should accept it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we don't see that here. We have dysfunction a little bit, right? We didn't like what we had in January, so we'll bring something back in February. Don't like what we see in February, just bring it right back in March. If March is defeated, are we going to see another one in April?
Will it end?
Well, will it end?
Yeah,
Is that the way we're going to govern? Because if that's the way the board's going to govern, it's going to get kind of crazy because everybody could start to do that. If I have an initiative and it doesn't pass, do I bring it back again and again and again?
Well, there's been things I haven't agreed with. You too. It's like you just accept it, say, well, that's the way it fell.
Well, look, the way I look
Now-
at it, Dan, is, think of this, right? The budget, we attempted to change the budget to meet what we wanted, okay?
In November, we had
Right.
amendments, yes, right?
And-
Yeah.
The way I look at it is I do the best I can to amend the budget to what I want. Ultimately, when the budget comes, I have to vote for it, right? That's what I do, because I did the best I can to change it, and then after that, I realize that we have to just move forward, right?
Yeah.
And then next year, I'll try again. But that's governance, right? We don't see that. What we have, in my opinion, is a little bit of dysfunction.
I call it special interest too.
Well,
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
But the late Supervisor Jeff Schmidt, he said
Mm.
the same thing. Dan, I go in there, I do the best I can, I present my viewpoint, and the vote is taken, and it just falls the way it falls. And
Accept it.
we aren't seeing it here. And that's almost an embarrassment for Dodge County as far as I'm concerned. And why 3 weeks before a new board comes on? I mean, this is something that should just be put on hold because things are a-changing. So everybody consider these things. That's not borrow or you have no roads. It's saying we can find new roads without borrowing. But for some reason, it's not a popular thought.
Nope.
Isn't it too bad, Dave?
We're going to keep pushing.
Yeah,
That's all I
we
can say.
won't give up. We're out here for the taxpayers, number one, because that's who we're supposed to be out here for. We don't want to see government just gobbling us all up. So keep in touch. There's lots of things happening. I'm sure we'll have another Dave and Dan discuss soon. Seems we don't have to look too far, and it just kind of pops under our lap, you know?
It's fun.
Yeah, it is, it is.
All right.
But thank you all.
Take care. Bye now.